welcome to Mindshift, a PLCS Empowerment Collective podcast. My name is Christopher, and I am one of your hosts for today.
And I'm Deb, and I'm your co-host. I'm so glad to be here today.
And Deb, a couple weeks ago, you and I had the privilege of hosting some student panels at both of our high schools here in the district, where we talked to groups of high school students about their online experience, online identity, and got that inside look at what life is really like for teenagers. Because I know you and I had similar experiences where I learned a ton from the conversation with the students.
Yes. Well, and not only did I learn a ton, but the parents that were there, when I left, I don't know if our panelists know this, but when I left, I had parents standing in the parking lot not wanting to leave because they were still talking about the conversation. So I think this is a great opportunity to hear from our students.
Hello, my name is Taylor. I play basketball and I am also a part of track. I'm the president of Circle of Friends. I am in student council and I'm also a part of Hope Squad.
Hi, I'm Jacquelynn. I am in tennis and I am the president of VSA, which is Vietnamese Student Association, and I'm also on junior class board.
So we're going to get into this topic again, talking about online identity, social media, things like that. So how would you describe your generation's relationship with technology compared to your parents' generation?
I think for our generation, it's a lot of like outreach and communication. And we use it a lot to get our information. And maybe it's not always true, but like it's a way to spread information quickly and learn a lot about like what's happening. And so I feel like that's different compared to like my parents. They like brag and like share about their kids and what activities we've been doing. And like it's a lot of here's what I'm doing in my life. Like I want to hear about you.
I agree with Taylor. I mean, I just have to say, like, our generation is just way more connected to technology than, my parents' generation. Like, we use it every day and we use it almost every hour of the day. It's so, so important to us, and we almost like rely on it compared to them.
Can you guys tell me a little bit about what social media apps are you and your friends using right now, and what do you use them for?
So Snapchat is a big one I know with a lot of my friends, and it's a lot of texting. Like, what are you doing? Or like, hey, where are you? Like, I'm more likely to snap that to someone than I am to text it. And I feel like that's the same with Instagram. There's this new thing called Notes where you can like put like a song and then like leave a little note and be like, I'm feeling this way, or like homework has me like, or I'm excited for the weekend, and it like has a song to go with it. And I feel like those are the most common.
I think it's funny you mentioned the notes piece, and for any millennials listening, I feel like we used to do that. You used to be able to embed songs on your MySpace page. So that was our way of doing that and sharing how we felt through song, and they were usually really emo early 2000s like pop punk songs. So that I get that a little bit. I get that. Jacquelynn, what about you and your friends?
I guess I primarily use Snapchat and Instagram. Snapchat, I really use it. I think it's a really cute way to show people, like close people, updates on your life, like what you're doing at the moment, some fun things, and then they show you it back. I think it's a great way to communicate. Like Taylor said, it's definitely informal, and it's a really fun activity to do every day. And I also use Instagram a lot. I like to share videos, cooking videos, like silly videos to all of my friends. And I think that's also a fun way to communicate.
So I just thought about this as you guys were talking. Do you have, because this is something that I've heard, do you have different accounts for different audiences?
I don't, but a lot of my friends do. Yeah. So they're usually called dumps, and it will be like, for me, like if I were to have one, it might be like Taylor Dumpsky, or like my middle name Dump, like something like that is usually what it goes by. And so they like have their formal pictures like at the end of the season, like maybe like a basketball wrap up. And then they go on their dump page and it's a bunch of like silly pictures that I know a lot of people have it on private. So it's just like close friends, like they have like around like 20, 30 people on it.
I also know that there are some people who have accounts that they use specifically for stalking so that they cannot yeah, Taylor knows, so that they can't trace it back to that person who was actually doing the stalking. There's so many creative ways people use their second account.
So because of that, one of the things we talked about at the panel that I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about is, are you seeing that there's a difference in how boys and girls are using devices?
I think so, yeah. Like, I know I rely on my phone a lot for, like, prom was last weekend for our school, and so, like, looking up, like, hair inspo and nail inspo and, like, all of that good stuff, so I feel like I rely more on, like, my Pinterest and, like, Instagram and all of that, whereas, like, I know a lot of my friends that are boys are like, "Oh, I wanna go play Fortnite on my Xbox," or do whatever it is, like
I know my brothers, because their friends are on different, like, schedules, they connect really by playing on Friday nights or playing Fortnite on Saturday nights or during the weekend. Whereas I would like text my friends or like send them Instagram reels or those kind of stuff. So it is really different between boys and girls.
You know, Deb, I just told you there's a book right now. It's called The Anxious Generation, and I just finished reading it, and he talks a lot about some of the differences in social media use between boys and girls. And that's something that he says as well, that girls tend to use more of the visual based things like Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, and boys tend to use more of the video game spaces, or he talked about Twitch as well, which I don't know a ton about, but it's something where I know you like watch other people play video games. Do we sound old yet, you guys? But okay, so let's go back to TikTok, because TikTok is pretty big right now. And what do you think, thinking about TikTok, thinking about some of the other things that you guys use, what are some of the challenges that you and your peers face from those different platforms? Because I know they're all a little bit different, but I think there are some common threads there about ways that they might make things harder for you.
Yeah, like, I know, like, with that news, there's also, like, that false information, and, like, there's, like, a bunch of stuff right now where it's, like, you're seeing videos of these people, but it's not really people, it's something that AI has created, and it's starting to look more real and real, and I think it started with, like, the older generations not knowing what was real, and now it started to become nobody can tell what's real.
On that note, today, my husband sends me a text message and he says, I turned our dogs into people. And I was like, what? I looked at what he sent me, and he used AI to turn our dogs into humans. And they look like real humans, but it's also a little freaky because, like, I can tell that the inspo was our dogs. So it was a little bit creepy in that way. But it's what you said, Taylor. You can't tell the difference.
Yeah, that is scary to think about that the things that could go wrong if you believe something that really isn't true. I wonder if you could add, Jacquelynn, are there other challenges that you see?
I think the challenge is like the amount of pressure you need for like posts and for like your pictures and what you standard you're being put up to. I think that's really a big challenge that I see in all of my friends. You will see online that people will always say, go comment on my post, go like my post, like give this post some love. And I think that's really dangerous too when it gets to a certain point.
And there's a physiological response to that. And the creators of social media platforms know this, that when you get that interaction, whether it's positive interaction or a negative interaction, when you get that notification of interaction, it actually releases dopamine to the brain, which is a pleasure piece. Yeah, it's something I'm excited because I have this interaction or engagement. And that's part of what makes using social media a little bit addictive, because you want that. You want to feel good. You want that interaction. You want that engagement.
I feel like I'm saying all the time that some of this addiction is not our fault. The creators designed it to be addictive. So no wonder it's really hard to put those devices down.
And like in Hope Squad this week, we were talking about that and like how it is very addictive. And we watched this video of a couple of creators that came together and said, I'm not going to allow my children to have this because it's so bad for you. And I feel so bad that I was a part of making something like this just because it's so challenging, and a lot of people struggle with that mental health aspect of it because it becomes obsessive and addictive, and it's hard to break because nobody really knows like what it is.
You know, it's kind of a double-edged sword in a way, Taylor, right? Because on the one hand, when you mentioned Hope Squad, some students who might feel really isolated and alone in real life might be able to find a community online that could be supportive. And yet at the same time, there's that worry you talked about how it could affect your mental health in a negative way. So how do you learn how to moderate it for yourselves?
Well, there's so many things. I mean, I know Instagram now has a new feature for like kids that limits your screen time. But like I think personally, you just have to recognize that yourself. I mean, you have to recognize that it's bad. And then on my phone, I know other phones do this too. You can set your personal screen time and you kind of just have to be strict with yourself.
I recently tried to make a change that I'll share with you guys. I don't charge my phone on my nightstand anymore, so it's not right next to me when I'm sleeping, and it has legitimately made a huge difference in my sleep quality.
Just recently started charging my phone in my room, but like before that, like it had to be in my parents' room at night. Like at 9 o'clock, it was getting plugged into their room. And if I wanted to stay up, then I could read or like hang out with my sisters or do something like that. And then this year, I've started to keep it in my room as it like an alarm clock, but I still have it at the point where I have to stand up to go get it so that that way I'm not tempted when I roll over and I can't sleep to pick it up and grab it and like check my notifications. Like I am done when
It takes discipline, doesn't it, Taylor?
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that I started doing was putting my phone in a different room when I study so that there's like no distractions. I don't hear the notifications. I'm not listening to music, so I'm just always locked in. And I truly think it helps. It really makes my brain at ease.
Yeah, that makes some sense, Jacquelynn. It's hard to if it's going all the time, how would you have time to focus on your schoolwork or anything else?
Now, one of the things that, the primary audience for our show is parents. And so, what's something that you feel would be helpful for parents to know or hear about making it easier for their kids to talk to them about devices or screen time, or just something maybe helpful that parents can do to better understand their kids' online experience?
I think it would be really helpful if they learned some of the new generation's apps. And I think if they really want to understand what their kid is going through or understand how their kid is living, they really should understand how these apps work. Like they don't have to use it all the time. To understand the way it works is really important to understanding their kid.
I think also with that, like having a positive attitude towards it. And I just feel like sometimes parents can come at it and it be like, oh, you're always on that phone, or like, oh, you're addicted, like that type of thing. And maybe, they're doing something where it's like, I'm texting a friend that, lives a couple minutes away and I can't, or a couple hours away and I can't talk to them right now. And I'm just like, really miss them. And I just want to send them a text. So I feel like either way, like no matter what the situation is, like having a positive tone, I guess, to go about it, because sometimes you can come at it very like stern and it becomes rude. And like, I know if someone were to speak to me that way, I wouldn't want to be like, oh, well, this is actually what I'm doing. I would just be like, okay, like I would kind of disassociate from that.
All right, we are coming up to the end of our time together. I have one last question for you. You guys have been great guests for us today. Lots of cool insights for the old folks in the room. But last question, what gives you hope about your generation?
I think it's that this generation is so creative and they're so smart. And especially with the new technology and AI, if they're able to use that correctly, which a lot of people are, they can do so many great things. They could advance our future. They are our future. And I'm pretty hopeful in it. I mean, seeing some of the creations, the AI creations that people can do, I really believe that these are the people that are going to advance us in the future.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. And just like, I can't wait to see like what we come up with. And like, there's so many great ways that social media can be used. And I can't wait to see like what happens with that. But I also think like, I just love the way that we use it now, and I just want to be able to like keep up with that. So I feel like moving on now that like we're close to like being seniors and graduating, I just can't wait to see how we grow that platform and like what we can do with it in the future.
Well, thank you, Taylor. Thank you, Jacquelynn, for joining us today. And thank you, listeners, for listening to Mindshift. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And you can visit us online at plcschools.org/Mindshift for more content. And we'll catch you next time for another exciting topic.